People often assume that if you love staying at home, something is wrong with you. They think you're antisocial, lazy, unmotivated, or wasting your life. In a culture that celebrates hustle, networking, nightlife, and constant movement, choosing to stay home almost feels like quiet rebellion, but psychology tells a very different story. And by the end of this video, you may realize that people who love staying home are not missing out on life. They're responding intelligently to it. Let's start with something uncomfortable. Modern society is built on stimulation. Noise, notifications, conversations, crowds, screens, expectations. We are constantly told that more activity equals more happiness. Go out more. Meet more people. Say yes more often. Be visible. Be loud. Be available. But psychology has discovered something most people don't want to hear. The human nervous system was never designed for this much input. People who prefer staying home are often people whose nervous systems are highly sensitive, not weak, not fragile, but deeply perceptive. They process more. They feel more. They notice more. And because they notice more, they reach saturation faster. Crowded environments don't energize them, they drain them. This doesn't mean they hate people. It means their brains work differently. Psychologists call this sensory processing sensitivity. Highly sensitive individuals take in subtle details others miss, tone changes, emotional undercurrents, background noise, social tension, while others may thrive on constant interaction. These individuals subconsciously absorb everything, and that takes energy. Staying home is not avoidance. It's regulation. Another misconception is that people who stay home are wasting time. But research shows that people who enjoy solitude often have higher levels of creativity, self-awareness, and emotional depth. When you're alone, your brain switches from reactive mode to reflective mode. Instead of responding to external stimuli, you start processing internal ones. This is where insight happens. This is where ideas form. This is where healing begins. The problem isn't staying home. The problem is that we live in a culture that fears stillness. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to hear themselves. People who are constantly busy often aren't chasing success. They're avoiding introspection. Staying home removes distractions. And distractions are what most people use to escape unresolved emotions. Psychologists have found that individuals who enjoy spending time alone tend to have a stronger internal identity. They don't rely as heavily on external validation to feel okay. That's threatening in a world built on approval. Now let's talk about burnout. We live in one of the most overstimulated generations in history. Burnout isn't rare anymore. It's normal. People who choose to stay home often do so because their bodies and minds are signaling overload. They are listening. Staying home becomes a form of self-respect. And here's something even more interesting. Studies show that people who prefer staying home often have higher emotional intelligence. Why? Because emotional intelligence requires reflection. You can't understand emotions you never sit with. You can't process grief, disappointment, fear, or longing if you're constantly running from them. Home becomes the one place where the emotional mask comes off. And let's be honest, the world is loud. Social media alone floods us with comparison, outrage, achievement pressure, and unrealistic standards. Going out doesn't just mean leaving your house anymore. It means stepping into performance mode. People who choose home are often people who are tired of performing. They don't want to impress. They want to breathe. This is where the narrative shifts. Because staying home isn't about hiding from life. It's about choosing a different pace. Psychologists studying happiness have found something surprising. Happiness is less about excitement and more about contentment. The happiest individuals aren't the most entertained. They're the most emotionally regulated. Home offers predictability, safety, control over sensory input. That creates calm, and calm is addictive once you experience it. Now, let's address something important. Loving home doesn't mean rejecting ambition. Some of the most focused, disciplined, and successful people are home-centered. They protect their energy so they can use it intentionally. They don't spread themselves thin. They don't say yes to everything. They choose depth over breadth. And depth is where mastery lives. In American culture especially, independence and productivity are highly valued. But productivity doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes productivity looks like rest, reflection, recovery. Neuroscience confirms that the brain consolidates learning and emotional processing during quiet states. When you slow down, your mind reorganizes itself. People who stay home often aren't falling behind. They're integrating. There's also a strong link between staying home and meaning-seeking behavior. Extroverted environments often revolve around distraction. Home creates space for questions. Who am I really? What do I actually want? What matters to me? Not everyone wants to answer those questions. But those who do often withdraw, not because they're lost, but because they're searching. And here's the part most people don't expect. Psychology shows that people who are comfortable alone often have healthier relationships. Why? Because they don't use people to fill emotional voids. They don't cling. They don't need constant reassurance. They choose connection, not dependency. They enjoy people without needing them to feel whole. That's emotional maturity. Now let's address the fear many people have. What if staying home means I'm missing out? Psychology has an answer for that too. The fear of missing out isn't about missing experiences. It's about fearing irrelevance. People worry that if they're not seen, they don't exist. But people who enjoy staying home often build identity internally. They don't need constant confirmation that they matter. They know, and knowing is powerful. As people mature, many naturally shift inward. It's not regression. It's refinement. What once felt exciting begins to feel noisy. What once felt empty begins to feel peaceful. This isn't giving up on life. It's choosing a life that doesn't drain you. Now, let's go even deeper. There's a spiritual layer of psychology doesn't fully explain. Many people who love staying home describe a sense of clarity, grounding, or inner alignment. When the noise reduces, something else becomes audible. Thoughts slow, breathing deepens, perspective widens. In stillness, people often reconnect with meaning. That's not accidental. Stillness has always been associated with wisdom. Across cultures, reflection, solitude, and quiet were seen as sources of insight. Modern life just forgot that. So no, this isn't about rejecting society. It's about protecting the self within it. People who love staying home aren't broken. They're responsive. They're adapting to a world that asks too much and gives too little rest. They're choosing intentional living over constant consumption. And perhaps most importantly, they're not afraid to be alone with themselves. And that might be the rarest trait of all. Because if you can sit with yourself peacefully, the world can't easily destabilize you. You stop chasing noise. You stop fearing silence. You stop confusing stimulation with fulfillment. You don't withdraw from life. You finally meet it on your own terms. So if you love staying home, psychology doesn't say you're missing out. It says you're listening, and that changes everything.